Does your relationship with food stress you out?
This is such a big one. And I don't know if I've actually ever talked about this on camera before. So for me, this question of does your relationship with food stress you out? The answer is yes. For a long time, I have really struggled with the way that I consume food, the way that I hold on to food, the way that I experience my life around food. And actually, when I met Corey, I didn't even really have a relationship with food at all. I didn't eat for fun. I didn't eat for taste. I didn't eat for convenience. It just wasn't the way that I grew up. We didn't keep soda in the house. My parents don't use anything except salt. So like I was introduced to pepper at 15 years old. And that was a huge experience for me to finally get to taste food and understand seasonings and understand the way I was having a reaction in a positive way for a while. And what I realized was that food was becoming another tool for me to numb. I didn't want to have to look at what was underneath that food. And I noticed it especially in the van, because as Corey and I started really having to cook all of our meals, this was a different lifestyle than we had in Nashville. And we didn't cook very often when we lived in Nashville. We ate out a lot. We brought food home a lot. And if we did eat, it was like we made way too much, so we had leftovers, and then we would never eat the leftovers. And it just, for both of us, felt like such a waste. We wasted so much money and time and resources on healthy food that would just go to waste and things that we just didn't eat. And when we got into the van, we have a lot less space, so we have a lot less food. But with that, I started to enjoy the process a little bit more. It became a way to, to fuel ourselves. I felt that desire for health and creation because I really enjoyed that process. But where it really started to get tricky for me was that I would plate our foods. We both have 2 plates or 2 bowls. And I felt that we had to have the same amount in our bowls because that was fair. And with that, I learned a lot about myself. And really, that food is a personal journey. It doesn't matter how much I eat. It doesn't matter how much Corey eats. It doesn't matter what we both eat together. It's what I need to fuel myself. And that relationship with food was really starting to stress me out because I was noticing a physical reaction when we didn't have the same amount of food on our plate. And Corey's bigger than me, and he should eat more food than I do. And I want him to do that. But it was me that was overeating and over-consuming because I was so afraid of not having enough for me.
Now that we've heard the story, let's jump into the steps. And step 1, what was that?
That was my relationship with food. That was looking at unfairness and having to reconcile unfairness in relationship to food.
So the not having enough was where you really started to feel the stress?
Yeah, I think at first the surface level was that it felt unfair. We have to have the same amount of food because that's balanced and that's fairness, that's justice. And the Libra in me loves that.
Where do you think that came from?
For me, it came from family dynamics. I am the youngest of 5, and there was a lot of kids and a lot of food and a lot of things happening all the time. So I think there was just a lot of chaos, and because of that, I I had this deep ingrained feeling of there wasn't enough for me. There's not enough for me. And that's not true. That's definitely not true. And it wasn't true then, and it's not true now. But it is something that I am constantly working on.
And now that you have spent more time with it, would you say that this is something that you would own? Is this yours? This feeling that you have around food?
Yeah, the more that we actually record these and the more we work through this process, this question of, is it mine, has moved me a little bit, because I believe in this needing to take ownership. And that's what I had to do is in this situation, is I am the one that has to look at the belief, and I have to face that belief, and I have to face all of these things that have happened in that time that I believed this. But I also believe that this was a learned behavior, that this was part of my environment, part of the way that I grew up. I think it was unintentional from anybody involved. But I do believe that there is a part of this that we can also, as a collective, agree that we just didn't know better, you know? And I think for me, this one is very real and true. It's that my parents didn't know that I believed this, but I did. I still did. And so I think you have to still find that balance of, I want to take the ownership for that belief because I no longer allow it to control my life, while also being able to give myself some grace in that I didn't choose this consciously, and that no one chose that for me.
Yeah. Now that everyone's heard your relationship with food, and maybe some people that are watching are examining their own relationship with food, what tips do you have for them as far as an application or a course correction to move through the rest of their day to try to learn something about their food? What do you have for them?
Well, I think there's a few easy, simple ones. This is like the health and fitness part of me is, look at your portions. Like that was one thing that I started at, was realizing that we don't need to have the same amount of food, and that just because Corey's eating it doesn't mean I need to. But what I need to do is find out what works for me, how much, how little. So one of the things that I noticed was really stressing me out was if I put a little bit on my plate and I knew I wanted to have more, I was worried that there wasn't going to be more for me. So that's something that we've also worked on, is like we keep extra and we just start with smaller portions, knowing that we can go back, which has helped me. And I've realized I really don't always need to go back because I'm starting to learn that portion. But really my course correction and application for you is I just really want you to sit in your own relationship with food. Ask yourself why you're eating the things that you're eating. Ask yourself if you feel aware that you're eating them. Recognize when you're eating or why you're eating. What is the situation? What's the scenario? I think it really just starts with becoming more aware. And my call to action to you is just journal about this. Ask yourself, what is your relationship with food? And do you love it? Do you hate it? What do you want out of that relationship? And allow yourself to just learn where you're at and start where you're at right now, because this isn't going to just flip overnight. It takes time, it takes patience, and it takes giving yourself a little grace.
Hey y'all, thanks for watching, and as always, like, comment, share, and we drop new material every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
If you're interested in our current projects or any of our future projects, please support our work at www.patreon.com/usfirstthat.